My name is Vaughn, and this is my resurrection story. I was born on July 16, 1960 in Lincoln Park, Michigan, to two people who were hearing impaired and were excited to have a hearing child. I'm the first of two. My father found he had brain cancer in the early 60s. He'd been sick pretty much all his life. And at the age of 34, moved us to Tennessee. We lived in the house for 10 days, went to Vanderbilt Hospital, and never came home. I have no memories of my dad. My mom, on the other hand, Florence, the most innocent soul that ever lived the face of this earth. A devout Bible scholar who prayed in sign language at my kitchen table on a regular basis. She was a widow at 34. And never married again. Raised two hearing children. Mom planted a lot of seeds. Planted a lot of seeds in me, my sister. I was raised at Griffith's Chapel Nazarene Church in Houston County. Reverend Bob Mitchell, whose name you see down at Camp Garner Creek, he was my pastor, my minister, my confidant. About the age of 13, I rebelled and spent the better part of the next 25 years away from the church. But my mom, she kept planting those seeds, wanting me to come back to Jesus, and eventually I did. I went to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville from 91 through 95, and I graduated with a degree in human services. Upon coming home, I became a case manager. I worked for the local area. I worked in Dixon, Hickman, Houston, Humphreys. 2000, New Year's Eve, 1999. Okay, Lord, I'm alone on another New Year's Eve. If that's what you want for my life, I'm going to quit looking. I'm just going to let you have it. It's yours. 8 weeks later, I came to work that morning, and my boss said, "Don't do anything for lunch. We're having a lunch and learn. This lady's coming down. She's going to talk to us about this new program." And when we got done, my co-workers were saying, "She's into you." And I said, "Oh, you're crazy. She's just being nice." So make a long story short, she calls me up and invites me to lunch. I make a joke that I'm like the old mule out in the field. I got to be hit upside the head. Start going out the weekend after Irish Day in here. And July 1st, we married. And we were together for 17 years. And then I also am a father to a 7-year-old boy. Never had a dad. Didn't know how to be a dad. There's a lot of learning and a lot of mistakes made, and hopefully I did okay. I mean, he's turned out great. He's a hard worker. God put them in my life. God gave them to me. It was a gift. Janet was working at the Humphreys County Nursing Home over at the end of Powers. She came home and she said, "I met this wonderful lady named Katie Brown. And her husband is the pastor at Waverly Nazarene." I said, "Oh, really? Nazarene? That's what I was raised in." She was raised Baptist. So she said, "I think we should go." And of course, I hadn't been in church in a long time. I literally was like, it was lightning on a strike, because not that I ever denounced Christ or anything like that. I just didn't live the life of a Christian. I walked in the church. I sat down on the right-hand side in the very back row in the corner. She sat beside me. It was just the people. The first week, if we got one, we got 30 cards. It was in the late fall, October of 2008. We went to Come to the Waters. Next Sunday, we joined the church. Janet was working. She had a master's degree in social work. She had a license. She was a licensed clinical social worker. Janet went to work for the DOD. She got very sick. and we lost $100,000 a year salary over in a matter of like 6 weeks. We went from not worrying about money to not being able to buy groceries. This church, these people, you know, I live 28 miles away, and Rolling Stones would send us a check for gas. Hope to see you Sunday. Charlie Music was my Sunday school teacher. He would literally go to the store and buy $100, $150 worth of food and bring it to the church and say, hey, can you pull your truck over here? I got something for you. Bill and Tish Ladd, they done so much for us. When we didn't have money to go to doctor's appointments, they drove to Erin and picked us up, took us to Nashville, came back and dropped us off in her home, and then came home. They bought us food. They helped us pay light bills. They helped us pay water bills. They done so much for us. We almost lost our house. And we just kept the faith. We're not going to lose it. We're not going to lose it. And everything just seemed to work out. Everything worked out. And when I joined the church and started coming on Wednesday nights and stuff, the first group I went to was called Walk Across the Room. And that book changed my life. That book and that class, that's where I learned that grace was free. I went back to work and my clients were saying, what happened to you? You're glowing. What happened? And so I started sharing. Well, they started talking about it. My supervisor called me back in the office one day and said, you can't be sharing your testimony with clients. I said, okay, really? Okay. I was a case manager for 12 years. I wanted to do something different. And I went to trucking school. Drove a truck for about 6 years and came back home and finally got off the road. Worked in Springfield for a while. Janet got sick, real sick. She had chronic complex migraine syndrome. And when the migraines got bad, the complex part, they mimicked a stroke. She had the migraine syndrome and also had severe diabetes. The night she passed, I came home from work, got home about 9, and she was asleep in the chair like she always was. And when I woke her up to go to bed, she said, I don't feel good. So I helped her to bed, I kissed her on the head and said, I love you, baby. And she mouthed, I love you too. I woke up and I realized the coffee wasn't being brewed. She always got up and made coffee for me. I ran, called 911, and they came in, and sure enough she was gone. And I had a lot of grief. You know, I've had a lot of grief in my life. I lost 3 friends in 6 years, 1 to murder, 1 to car wreck, 1 to cancer, and then I lost the love of my life. I was in my house on a Saturday night, crying my eyes out. I ended up in the floor, crying out to God, please help me get through this. And he spoke to me and said, go home. And I got up that Sunday morning and I came here. Even though I drive 28 miles, I pass a lot of churches coming here. But this is my home. This is where I'm supposed to be. I work with Meals on Wheels. That was like in November of 19. Well, after Christmas, I came to work, and the lady that was the site manager for Meals on Wheels said, I'm leaving. The people at Meals on Wheels approached me, have a degree, background in mental health, social work, offered me the job. I've been there 4 years. I've probably served close to 80,000 to 85,000 meals in 4 years. It's a feat that only God can do. What's cool about this job is I'm able to share my testimony. I'm able to share my story with everybody. Every client I've had, I've told them, I'll pray for you, and God wants me here. That's why I'm here. I do have Venous deficiency disorder. I have a terrible back. I have a few breathing issues. I'm not able to do a lot of hard labor. There wasn't a whole lot that I could do at the old church. Well, the new church came about, and I heard about the security team. I can be eyes and ears. It's not going to be that taxing physically. I can fall in and stand in the gap and do things. My job on Easter Sunday, brought my chair and I sat down, and when people who needed to park closer to the front door came in, I'd get on the radio and I'd say, okay, Alton Heston's here. He needs to park. Oh, the red van coming in. They need to park. One of the biggest blessings I had from Easter Sunday was seeing my son stand out there with a walkie-talkie in his hand, waving people through. But really and truthfully, there's nothing I wouldn't do for this church. Nothing. I'm Ray, and I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me.